Sophia was everything I thought I wanted: tall, slender, with striking brown-blonde hair and a figure that turned heads. When we first met, her eyes sparkled with wonder, like a child seeing fireworks for the first time. At 6 feet 2 inches with a swimmer's build, I thought we were perfect together. Friends would tease us, saying our smiles gave away just how much we adored each other. Our physical connection was intense, and for 2 years, it was the foundation of our relationship. But everything fell apart when Sophia betrayed me. At a party, she kissed Liam, a towering 6 feet 10 inches basketball player, and disappeared into his room. The next day, I confronted her, and she admitted everything, blaming it on alcohol and begging for forgiveness. Against my better judgment, I forgave her after weeks of anger, but warned her it was her only chance. Looking back, I regret that choice. Friends who urge me to forgive are in unhappy relationships, while those who told me to leave are happily married. Still, life moved forward. I became a programmer, Sophia worked as an administrator, and we got married. We had 2 kids, Oliver and Ella, and life seemed stable until Sophia started working in real estate. Her long hours and late nights brought back the memory of Liam and my lingering mistrust. Suspicious, I installed monitoring software on her phone and planted a recorder in her bag. It didn't take long to uncover her affair with Ethan, a colleague. Their conversations were explicit but emotionless, and I clung to the hope that it was purely physical. Determined to save our marriage, I cooked her favorite meals, gave her extra attention, and involved the kids in creating a warm, loving atmosphere. At first, she seemed receptive, even canceling plans with Ethan once. I began to hope things might improve. One Friday night, I took Sophia to a 5-star restaurant for dinner and dancing, leaving the kids with my brother. We laughed, reconnected, and tried to break our record for the most intimate moments in one evening. The next day, we took the kids to a water park for a family day. I thought we were healing, but just days later, my hopes were shattered when I found a text to Ethan: "Looking forward to seeing you. I missed you." Heartbroken, I realized Sophia had been lying the entire time. I activated her phone's camera remotely and saw Ethan, a man I'd met briefly at her office. The betrayal felt deeper than ever. I knew it wasn't just about me anymore. It was about protecting our kids. Violence crossed my mind, but I chose a different path: to expose Sophia's double life and secure custody of Oliver and Ella. The first step came at Ella's concert. I moved a reminder on Sophia's phone to the wrong date, ensuring she missed it. While she was with Ethan, Ella was heartbroken, but I assured her that adults sometimes get caught up with work. Sophia came home later, looking fresh but still in her work clothes, and apologized. Ella forgave her reluctantly, telling her she couldn't miss the next event. I could see the cracks forming. I began tracking Sophia's patterns. She and Ethan often met at a small restaurant known for its Scotch eggs. Casually, I mentioned the place to my father-in-law and made a reservation for the following Wednesday, a day they frequented it. That evening, after confirming Sophia was working late, I arrived with her parents. As soon as we entered, I spotted Sophia sitting in a booth with Ethan. I made no attempt to hide. "Booth or table?" I asked loudly, watching Sophia's head snap up. Her eyes widened in panic, and she quickly slid away from Ethan, who looked like he wanted to disappear. We sat nearby, and Sophia rushed over, trying to act casual. "Mom, Dad, what are you doing here?" she asked, forcing a smile. Her dad beamed, clueless. "We heard about the Scotch eggs and decided to try them," he said, hugging her warmly. Sophia gestured toward Ethan. "Oh, my colleague and I were just grabbing a quick bite before heading out to show a property." Her parents' expressions shifted. My mother-in-law frowned, and her father glanced suspiciously at Ethan. "We wouldn't want to interrupt your business lunch," my mother-in-law said icily. Sophia faltered but tried to brush it off, introducing Ethan, who waved awkwardly, his face bright red. The meal was tense. Sophia dominated the conversation, trying to steer attention away from Ethan, but her parents weren't fooled. I couldn't resist a few pointed questions. "How long have you worked together?" And "How is a nice guy like you still single?" My favorite was, "Sophia, maybe you should introduce your sister to him. If they hit it off, we could all be family." Sophia's smile was strained, her lover visibly uncomfortable. He finally broke the silence, saying, "No thanks, I have a girlfriend." I leaned forward slightly and asked, "Oh, is it someone we know? Or are you keeping her a secret?" He grinned awkwardly, then said, "She's in a tough relationship and trying to get out of it. I don't feel comfortable saying who it is." The smirk quickly vanished as he noticed all of us staring at him, especially Sophia, whose face had turned pale. When the food arrived, my in-laws ate quickly, their discomfort evident. I barely touched my plate. Sophia noticed and asked with forced cheer, "Is the Scotch egg good?" Without breaking eye contact, I replied flatly, "I've lost my appetite." Her mother, avoiding any further drama, called the waiter over and handed him a $100 bill to cover everyone's meal. She excused herself, saying she needed the restroom, while Sophia's father quietly took the change, glaring at the lover like he was something rotten. He left for the restroom as well. I stood, pushed in my chair, and addressed Sophia and her lover. "Sorry to interrupt your business lunch. I'm sure you've got plenty to discuss and more people to deceive." With that, I walked out of the restaurant. Sophia hurried after me, catching me as I unlocked my car. "It was nice seeing you at lunch," she said nervously. "We'll discuss this at home. My parents will be here in a second." Her voice wavered as she glanced back, seeing her parents quickly exiting the restaurant, their faces flushed with embarrassment. They didn't look at her lover as they rushed to my car. Sophia lowered her gaze and muttered, "It's probably better this way." Her parents hugged her briefly before climbing into my car. The ride home was silent. When I dropped them off, Sophia's mom gave me a tight hug and said, "You're the son I never had. I love you." Her father added, "Bring the kids soon. I miss them." It broke my heart to realize how much Sophia had betrayed not just me but her parents too. Her actions were particularly painful given her family history. Years ago, they had disowned her younger sister, Isabel, for cheating on her husband. Isabel was unwelcome at family events, and her name was rarely spoken. Once, she tried to attend her ex-husband's church, only for Sophia's father to interrupt the sermon, apologize to the pastor, and leave without acknowledging Isabel. That evening, Sophia returned home, her demeanor overly cheerful. She claimed her dinner meeting with her lover had sealed a significant deal. "It's inappropriate to have dinner alone with an unmarried man," I told her bluntly. "I don't want you near him anymore, and I definitely don't want you going out to dinner with him again." She sighed, feigning innocence. "If it bothers you, I won't meet him for lunch anymore. Don't worry, we're just business partners." Her casual tone infuriated me. "I'll be sleeping in the guest room until you apologize to me and your parents," I said firmly. Her expression shifted to alarm. "You're making a mountain out of a molehill," she said defensively. Her attitude only confirmed my suspicions. At least it gave me an excuse to avoid being intimate with her. Over the next few days, I decided to take matters into my own hands. I installed a remote switch in both Sophia's and her lover's cars to cut the engine when necessary. Then I sabotaged her car's transmission sensor, ensuring any mechanic would struggle to find the issue. My chance came one afternoon while I was at Oliver's football game. Sophia, thinking I was occupied, decided to spend time with her lover. I remotely turned off her car while she was at his apartment. When Sophia tried to leave, her car wouldn't start. "What's wrong?" her lover asked. "The battery works, but the car just won't start," she replied, frustrated. He offered to drive her home, but she snapped, "No. If my husband sees you dropping me off, it'll cause a huge problem. Call a tow truck." After arranging a rental car, she realized she was running late to pick up Ella for her band competition. Luckily, Ella called me, and I left Oliver's game early to pick her up. I also arranged for a friend to take Oliver home. By the time Sophia arrived home, still in her work clothes but freshly showered, I was already there with Ella. "Ella, I'm so sorry," Sophia said, her voice dripping with fake concern. "The car broke down and I rented a car, but your dad picked you up first." Ella was unimpressed. "This is the second time you've missed my performances, Mom. I hope work is worth it," she said before stomping off to her room. Later that night, I confronted Sophia. "I called your office after lunch," I said. "They told me you left hours ago. You had plenty of time to pick up Ella. What were you really doing?" Sophia froze for a moment before stammering, I was running errands and thought I had enough time. I didn't expect the car to break down. What errands? I pressed. Just some things that needed to be done, she replied vaguely. Well, I hope those things were worth more than your daughter's trust, I said coldly. Without waiting for her response, I turned and went to the guest room, leaving her alone with her guilt. It was becoming painfully obvious that Sophia didn't care about missing our kids' activities. Time and time again, she prioritized her lover over her family. Even the mechanics couldn't figure out why her car wasn't working, and I could see her frustration building. Meanwhile, Ella started pushing Sophia's buttons with thinly veiled sarcasm. Mom, you said you'd take me and my friends to the mall on Saturday. Can you tell me now if you're not driving us? We don't want to be stranded if your car breaks down again. Oliver overheard and burst into laughter. Nice one, Ella, he said, grinning. The kids were clearly starting to feel neglected, and it wasn't lost on me how their respect for Sophia was slipping. That evening, Sophia came to me and complained, asking me to talk to the kids about showing her more respect. I gave her a flat look. I'll think about it. Once you apologize to me and your parents, I said from the guest room. She stormed off, muttering something about my stubbornness being the real problem. On Saturday, I took Ella and her friends to the mall myself after Sophia claimed she had work to do. Later, I found her car parked at a house for sale. When we got back home, Ella loudly thanked me for taking her and her friends, making sure Sophia could hear. Then she called one of her friends, ignoring Sophia's attempts to ask her about the outing. Sophia looked ready to complain, but I stifled a laugh, grabbed a drink, and locked myself in my office. Sophia came home still wearing her work clothes, but the scent of freshly showered skin betrayed her. It was clear she'd been up to no good in the house she was supposedly showing. I could only hope she at least had the decency to change the sheets. With Oliver's birthday coming up, I threw myself into planning. I booked 6 bowling lanes for family and friends and made sure the party would run smoothly. Finding a venue without a Wednesday night league wasn't easy, but I managed. When I told Sophia about the plan, she looked uneasy. You can pick up the cake and candles while I take the kids and their friends, I told her. We'll eat pizza, open presents, and then bowl. She nodded, but I knew where her priorities really lay. The week before, I sabotaged her lover's car several times, forcing them to reschedule their meetings. When they finally managed to meet on Tuesday, I disabled his car again, adding another layer of frustration to their plans. By Wednesday, Sophia texted him, looking forward to seeing you a little later in the afternoon. That same day, I confirmed via her GPS that she was at his apartment. I executed my plan. I rented a car with a spacious trunk, filled a covered cage with an angry skunk, and drove to her lover's place. After using a door ram to smash open the door, I activated a taser attached to the cage, releasing the skunk into the apartment. I didn't stick around to watch the chaos unfold, but listened through Sophia's phone. The screams and frantic voices were everything I imagined. Her lover eventually called the police, reporting a wild animal in his apartment. When the officers arrived, guns drawn, the skunk lunged at them, spraying its foul scent. The smell was so overwhelming that the officers vomited before slamming the door shut and calling animal control. Hours later, 2 very smelly officers returned to question Sophia and her lover. 2 more officers showed up but quickly left, unable to bear the stench. Who owns this apartment? One officer asked. I do, the lover replied. Turning to Sophia, the officer asked, And who are you? Sophia, flustered, said, Just visiting. The officer raised an eyebrow. Do you have ID? Sophia protested. Is this really necessary? I just got attacked by a skunk. Still, she handed over her ID. How do you know him? The officer pressed. We work together, Sophia replied nervously. What were you doing here? He asked. Picking up documents, she lied. The officer's patience wore thin. And why was there a skunk in the apartment? Before Sophia could respond, her lover blurted, It was a birthday present. The officer's eyebrows shot up. Did you seriously buy an adult skunk for your boyfriend? Sophia quickly interrupted. He's not my boyfriend, she said, her voice sharp. Stop lying. Why would you buy an adult skunk as a gift? The officer demanded. Sophia, thinking quickly, said, I didn't. I bought a baby skunk because he said he loves them. But I guess it was an adult, and it attacked him. The officer sniffed, grimacing at the smell. Do you buy expensive pets for all your coworkers, or just your boyfriend? Sophia stayed silent, avoiding the officer's gaze. What about the broken door? He asked. I broke it yesterday and didn't have time to fix it, her lover said, his voice dripping with embarrassment. The officer stared at them for a long moment before saying, I know this is all a lie, but I can't stand the smell anymore. You and your boyfriend can leave because you both smell worse than us. He slammed the broken door shut behind him as he left. What the hell was that? The lover exclaimed, his voice thick with frustration. Sophia, always quick with a response, said sweetly, we couldn't exactly tell them someone broke your door and released a skunk in your apartment. Why not? He asked. Because then they'd ask my husband if he did it. And if he didn't know, they'd tell him I was here, she said, her tone icy. Then her voice turned accusatory. Be honest. How many other women are you seeing? The lover looked offended. No one, he said indignantly. Sophia wasn't buying it. When was the last time you slept with someone other than me? She pressed. About a month ago, he muttered. You've been sleeping with her this whole time? Sophia asked sharply. He hesitated. There was another one 6 months ago, he admitted. Sophia's eyes narrowed. Did their husbands find out? Probably, he replied. Sophia sighed in frustration. Great. Now I'm sure this is revenge from one of their husbands. I'll find out if my husband did it. Her phone rang, cutting through the tension. Hey, Sophia, have you picked up the cake yet? I asked. She swore under her breath. Damn, I'm stuck at work. Leaving now, she lied. Don't let Oliver down, I said firmly over the phone. I'm on my way, Sophia replied, hanging up abruptly. She showered, changed, and headed out, but I remotely disabled her car halfway to the store. After several failed attempts, it started again, only to break down 3 more times before she finally made it to the bakery. By the time she arrived at the bowling alley with the cake, she was late and reeked of frustration. As Sophia walked in with the cake, the overpowering stench of skunk filled the room. Everyone instinctively covered their noses and coughed. Oliver, embarrassed, pulled her aside and said, Mom, maybe you should just go home after the party? On the drive home, Oliver asked me, why does Mom always miss our events? She tries to do what's best for the family, but sometimes it's hard to be in 2 places at once, I replied carefully. He shook his head. But you're always there for us, and you make more money than she does, he pointed out. I have a more flexible schedule, so it's easier for me to be with my favorite skunks, I joked. Ella groaned. It's not funny, Dad, she said, though I saw her suppress a smirk. It'll be funny when you tell your friends at school tomorrow, I replied. We ended up tossing the smelly cake, which the kids found hilarious. For the first time that day, I felt some relief and was glad to sleep in the guest room that night. A few days later, I noticed Sophia sniffing around the upholstery in my car, her behavior growing increasingly strange. She looked like a mouse searching for cheese. Curious, I followed her upstairs and caught her sniffing my shoes. I quietly recorded her, though I never asked why her own car didn't seem to smell like skunk. 2 Saturdays later, I announced I needed to run to the hardware store. No one wanted to come along, so I went alone, straight to her lover's apartment. His car was parked out front. I knocked on the door, and when he opened it, I said, I think we can help each other. I'm Sophia's husband. Can I come in? His face turned pale as I stepped past him and sat at the kitchen table. The place smelled like a mix of fresh paint and skunk, and I noticed all the furniture was new. I know you've been seeing my wife for over 6 months, I said. He stammered, Hey man, we're just friends. I raised an eyebrow. Would it help if I showed you photos and videos of your friendship? He hesitated. I don't know what you're talking about, he muttered. Let's skip the nonsense, I said coldly. I don't care about you. I care about what my wife is doing. So, instead of hiring a detective to get dirt on her, I'm offering to pay you for it. He blinked, stunned. You want me to make a video of me with your wife? That'll cost $2,000, he said after a pause, gauging my reaction. Yes, I'm serious, I replied. $2,000 for a clear video showing her face and body, plus written consent from you that you took the footage and allow me to use it." He stared at me for a long moment, then said, "If you already have evidence, why do you need this?" "Leverage for the divorce," I replied bluntly. "That's cruel," he whispered. "Like how she betrays me and her kids?" I countered. He nodded reluctantly. "Fine, $2,000, and I won't tell the other husbands about their wives. I'll even pay for a spa day for you and Sophia at a hotel," I added. "Make it $3,000, and we have a deal," he said. "Done. Don't tell Sophia. I'll arrange the spa and hotel. On Monday, I'll call to pick up the video and pay you in cash. All clear?" "All clear," he replied. "Make sure her face is visible in the footage," I said before leaving to continue my shopping. On Wednesday evening, I casually told Sophia, "I have a conference this Saturday. Will that be a problem?" "No, sounds like a relaxing weekend," she replied nonchalantly. The following Monday, I met her lover at a secluded rest stop. I checked him for recording devices and led him back to my car. "Do you have what I need?" I asked. He handed me a flash drive, which I verified on my laptop. "This is perfect," I said. "Do you have the consent form?" He passed me an envelope, which I photographed for safekeeping. After handing him an envelope of cash, he counted the bills twice, grinning. "If you need another video, let me know. Easiest money I ever made," he said. The next day, I shared everything with my brother and his wife, photos, videos, and a list of Sophia's dates, highlighting the family events she had missed. Then, I did the same with my parents and Sophia's parents, asking them to keep quiet until I gave the okay. On Wednesday, while Sophia was at her lover's place, I sat the kids down to explain. "Mom is infatuated with another man, and I'm not sure if she still loves me," I began. They stared at me in shock. "Are you getting a divorce?" Oliver asked. "We'll discuss it with her soon," I replied. "Right now, she's at his apartment." Both kids shouted, "She's there now?" I showed them her car's location on a GPS tracker. Ella's eyes filled with tears. "Is this why she misses our events?" she asked. I nodded, showing them a detailed list of her absences and a time-lapse of her movements on Ella's concert day and Oliver's birthday. When they saw how long she had stayed at her lover's place, they cried. "Damn that skunk," Ella muttered, her voice shaking. "The most important thing is that I love you both," I reassured them. "This is between your mother and me. We'll do everything we can to remain a family." After half an hour of crying, hugging, and talking, Sophia walked in. She took one look at our faces and froze. "What's going on?" she asked nervously. I stood up. "Kids, go to your rooms while Mom and I talk," I said. They hugged me, shot Sophia a cold glare, and walked upstairs. Once the kids were in their rooms, I closed the door and faced Sophia. "Sit down," I said firmly. She hesitated, her voice trembling. "What's going on?" she asked. "Sophia, I know you're having an affair," I said bluntly. Her face fell. "Oh God, no. That's not true. I would never cheat on you." "Why would you say that?" she stammered, her eyes filling with tears. "If you won't tell me the truth, this conversation is over," I said firmly. She shook her head. "This must be a mistake. Someone must have misunderstood something," she said, her voice rising. I sighed. "We're done for today. Think about what you're doing to this family. We'll talk tomorrow. Until then, don't talk to me or the kids," I said, leaving for the guest room. Sophia followed me, insisting, "You're wrong. I'd never do this to you." I shut the door, cutting her off. A while later, I heard her softly pleading through Ella's door. "Ella, what did Daddy tell you? It's all a mistake. Please open the door so we can talk." Ella texted me, "Can you make her stop?" I replied, "She's denying it, so there's no point in arguing." Ella hesitated, then wrote, "Are you sure?" I sent her a text with the evidence. I have pictures of them unclothed together. Her only reply was, "Oh." I opened the door to find Sophia standing there, looking desperate. "Leave the kids alone until we resolve this," I said. "You're making it harder for them." "But what did you tell them?" she demanded. "I told them the truth. You're involved with another man. This is between us. Leave them out of it," I replied coldly. She went to the bedroom, crying late into the night. The next day, I waited at the kitchen table for her to come home. The kids were staying with friends. When she walked in, I gestured for her to sit. "Have you thought about what you're doing to this family?" I asked. She nodded weakly. "Are you ready to talk honestly about your affair?" I pressed. She hesitated, then nodded again. "So, what do you have to say? Is it just a misunderstanding?" I asked. She sighed deeply. "Yes, I had an emotional connection. We had lunch a few times, but that's it. I love only you," she said quietly. "If you're lying, this conversation is over," I said flatly. "We'll talk again Saturday at 9. The kids will stay with my parents. Until then, think about your actions," I said, leaving for the guest room. On Saturday morning, I had breakfast with the kids at Sophia's parents' house. When I returned, Sophia was at the kitchen table, waiting. "Are you ready to be honest?" I asked. She nodded. "Did you tell my parents?" I asked. "Yes," she whispered. "And your parents? Your brother?" I pressed. She nodded again, her voice trembling. "How could you do this to me?" she asked, her voice cracking. "You lied to me, the kids, and our parents. You've turned everyone against you," I said coldly. "You kissed him a couple of times, and that's it? That's your story?" Sophia's voice grew defensive. "Since you still refuse to be honest, this conversation is over," I said. "The kids will stay with their grandparents. I'll work from home and sleep in the guest room. We'll talk Tuesday after work. Think about what you've done to this family." I left, shutting the door on her protests. That evening, I returned from dinner with the kids and my parents to find Sophia sitting in the living room. "We'll talk on Tuesday," I said, heading to bed. Over the next 2 days, Sophia's friends began texting me, urging me to forgive her. They called it a misunderstanding and an innocent mistake. I video called them, showing undeniable evidence of the affair. Their apologies were swift, and they cut off contact with her. Sophia didn't hear from them again. On Tuesday evening, Sophia came home exhausted. She brought takeout from our favorite Italian restaurant and set a plate down for me. "The days when you have to figure out what lies to tell everyone must be exhausting," I said dryly. "Nobody talks to me. They think I'm a monster," she said softly. "Lies have consequences," I replied. "You showed everyone the monster inside you." "They told me you showed them photos and videos of me with him," she said. "Yes, I did," I replied. "Can I see them?" "No one will let me see," she asked. "Yes, if it helps. I didn't let anyone make copies." "I don't want our family ridiculed," I said, showing her the evidence. Sophia stared at the photos and video, her face pale. "I love you so much. Can't we forget this mistake?" she asked. "How strong was your love for me that you had to be with someone else?" I asked coldly. "I never loved him," she said softly. "Marriage is about shared responsibilities, trust, and fun. I carried 100% of the responsibilities, all the trust, and none of the fun while you partied," I said. "You stole my love by giving yours to someone else." Sophia's voice was barely audible. "How long have you known?" she asked. 7 months, I replied. "Why did you wait so long?" she asked. "I hoped it was a one-time mistake and that you'd admit it because you always said you loved me," I said. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "How can I trust you now?" I asked. "Because I love you, and I'm telling the truth now," she replied. "Is this the same truth you told me in our last 3 conversations when you denied everything?" I asked. Sophia fell silent, staring at the floor. "What can I do to make things better?" Sophia asked, her voice trembling. I placed an envelope on the desk in front of her. "This is a post-nuptial agreement," I said. "Sign it, and I'll consider taking you back. We'll need therapy for us and the kids to make this work." Sophia's face hardened. "I don't want to sign a post-nuptial agreement," she replied, crossing her arms. "Then we're done," I said coldly. "It seems like you're more concerned about your financial future than our marriage." She hesitated, glancing at the envelope. "What's in it for me if I sign?" she asked. "If one of us files for divorce, I get 70% of everything. If I cheat, it's 50 to 50. If you cheat, I get 85%. In all scenarios, I get full custody of the kids," I explained. "Take it to a lawyer if you want. You have until Saturday morning to decide." Sophia frowned. Aren't you going to eat? I ordered your favorite meal, she said, trying to deflect. After all the lies and everything you've done, should I expect the arsenic sauce to be fresh? I asked dryly. Tears welled in her eyes, but I walked away. The next day, I visited Sophia's office while she was out and requested a meeting with the office manager, an older woman whose husband owned the company. How can I help you? She asked curtly, already looking annoyed. This is about my wife and a coworker she's been involved with, I said, keeping my tone steady. Her expression turned wary. Do you have evidence? She asked. I played short voice recordings and showed her incriminating photos. The manager's lips tightened. Can I assume my wife will be fired immediately? I asked. Yes, along with her lover, she replied. You can't fire him. I recorded my wife, not him, and this isn't admissible in court. I don't want to risk libel, and I doubt you do either, I said. Relieved, she nodded. That evening, Sophia came home in tears. I lost my job, she said. I looked at her without sympathy. We'll talk Saturday, I replied. On Saturday morning, Sophia handed me the signed post-nuptial agreement. I reviewed it, sent an electronic copy to my lawyer, and locked the physical copy in a safe. Here are the new house rules, I said. Good behavior from you, and we'll start counseling. I'll also let the family know we're trying to repair our marriage. Secretly, I had no intention of scheduling counseling. I already knew this wouldn't last. Sophia tried hard to act like the perfect wife, but her efforts were hollow. I caught her installing a hidden camera in my office, oblivious to the fact that I could monitor her actions from my laptop. On a Saturday morning, I found her in the kitchen, sipping coffee with a smug look on her face. Where are the kids? I asked. At my parents' house, she replied. Why? I asked, narrowing my eyes. We haven't been intimate in months, and I hope to change your mind today, she said coyly. It's been 8 months, I corrected her. 8 months? That can't be right, she protested. Maybe you lost track while cheating, I said bluntly. Her flirtatious demeanor disappeared. I've done everything you asked, and you still treat me like a leper. I want more respect, she said sharply. Is this how you want to handle it? I asked. Yes, she snapped. I'm done being treated like an outcast. I've deleted all your copies of the videos. The cloud, the flash drive, everything. I'll stay with my sister until you're ready to treat me better. I'll pick up the kids from school and have dinner at my place without you, she declared, grabbing her bag. Her sister Isabel emerged from the dining room, and together they walked out the front door. Over the next 2 months, Sophia began spinning her own narrative, telling her parents, our children, and even mutual friends that I had fabricated the evidence. She insisted the photos were fake and that I had photoshopped everything. Without the original files, even my parents began to doubt me. The kids were confused, caught between conflicting stories. My brother and his wife remained my only allies, but I still felt isolated. Determined to turn the tables, I approached her lover with a new offer. This time, I spared no expense. A hotel room on a beach in Florida, first-class tickets, and $5,000. I insisted the footage be taken on the balcony, ensuring it would be irrefutable. Sophia was thrilled about the trip, even bringing her sister Isabel along. 2 weeks later, I met her lover to review the footage. It was perfect, exactly what I had requested. I encrypted it, uploaded it to the cloud, and secured a flash drive as a backup. Now, about your payment, he said. I handed him the cash but stopped him before he could leave. A couple of questions first, I said. He hesitated, then nodded. Did you approach my wife first, or did she make the first move? I asked. He shrugged. Not really, it just kind of happened. Who brought up the idea of sleeping together? I pressed. He hesitated again. It just happened, he repeated. Who mentioned the lovemaking first? I asked as we drove. He hesitated before replying, she did. I glanced at him. How many women have you seduced in town? I asked, keeping my voice even. He chuckled nervously. 7, he admitted, listing off names. All were married. I reached into my pocket and turned off the recorder. Want to see something crazy? I asked, accelerating to 70 miles per hour. Hey man, what are you doing? He said, alarmed. Sorry, This is the crazy part, I replied, steering sharply toward a line of trees and slamming the brakes. We hit one at just under 40 miles per hour. Both of us were hurt but alive. I called the police to report the accident. At the hospital, my injuries were minor, but the police confiscated my laptop and flash drive as part of their investigation. Days later, I learned that my passenger, Sophia's lover, had succumbed to his injuries. When Sophia heard the news, she called me repeatedly, fishing for details, but I played dumb. The next day, the police questioned me about my connection to the deceased. I knew about the affair, I admitted. I gave him money to stay away from her, but he demanded more. The accident was just that, an accident. The officer asked pointedly, "Do you think anyone would believe you crashed the car on purpose?" I raised an eyebrow. Who risks their own life to eliminate someone by driving into a tree? The police left, but the cloud of suspicion lingered. A few days later, Sophia called and proposed meeting on neutral ground to discuss our marriage. "I don't want the conversation recorded. Let's meet at a hotel," she said. I agreed but insisted on choosing the room. She pushed back, citing safety concerns, but eventually relented. On Saturday, I followed Sophia and Isabel to a hotel. The receptionist initially offered us room 216, but I requested a higher floor with a view of the front entrance. Sophia and Isabel exchanged frustrated glances. They'd likely need to retrieve recording equipment from the other room. In the elevator, Isabel pressed against my side, flirting openly. "The discussion is between me and Sophia," I said curtly, brushing her off. Isabel's sudden friendliness was unsettling, given how she usually avoided me under Sophia's orders. The room was standard: an office desk, chair, chest of drawers, and a queen-sized bed. "What now?" Sophia asked impatiently. "Take off your clothes." "Completely. I don't trust you, and you don't trust me," I said. Sophia balked. "That's my sister. I don't want you to see her undressed," she said, motioning toward Isabel. "Come on. She doesn't have anything most people in this town haven't seen," I retorted. Isabel stuck her tongue out at me, revealing a piercing. Sophia reluctantly agreed, and they both began undressing. I followed suit, folding my clothes on the desk and placing a custom-made pin behind them. The pin looked identical to the hotel's, but had a hidden camera inside. I'd prepared by visiting every hotel in the area and modifying one of their complimentary pins to record video. As the three of us sat on the bed, I kept my focus on Sophia. "Now that we're all here, let's talk," I said, ignoring Isabel's provocative body language. "Sophia, I want a serious conversation." Sophia smiled sweetly. "I love you, darling." I rolled my eyes. "Sure, like your favorite pair of shoes," I replied. "You know that's not true." "I really love you," she insisted. "As long as the credit card works, right?" I shot back. Her smile vanished. "Don't be so dramatic. It was just a mistake," she said defensively. "A mistake?" I said, my voice rising. "You used every ounce of our marriage's strength to stab me in the back repeatedly. Now you want me to turn my back on you again?" "Darling, don't be like this. It was a little mistake," she pleaded. "A little mistake?" "It was a calculated betrayal," I snapped. Mimicking her voice, I said, "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know it would hurt you." Sophia started to cry. I was ashamed. "I lied at first, but I stopped when you confronted me," she said, her tone softening. "You stopped lying when I showed you photos." "That doesn't mean you won't lie about other things," I countered. Isabel stepped in. "Let's not say things we'll regret," she said, trying to defuse the situation. I turned to her. "Isabel, how many boyfriends and husbands have you deceived? How many married men have you seduced?" I accused. Isabel's face turned red, but she stayed silent. Sophia looked down. "I'm so sorry for what I did," she said quietly. "Feeling sorry isn't enough," I said coldly. "My job is to make sure you feel the weight of it properly." "It's not that bad," she muttered. "Not that bad?" I snapped. "What's the difference between you and a con artist? You gained my trust just to deceive me." "I didn't deceive you," Sophia argued. "Marriage is a contract of fidelity and trust. You broke it," I said. "I kept my end. You betrayed me. You forced me to sign that post-nuptial agreement." That was unfair, she protested. Unfair? I said with a bitter laugh. If I get a traffic ticket, I pay the fine. If I cheat on taxes, they take my money. If I drink too much, I go to jail. Why should cheaters be any different? Marriage is about raising a family and being faithful. You failed. Sophia sat in silence, unable to respond. Otherwise, what's the point? I asked. Sophia sat speechless. I pressed on. Do you know how many marriages that start with infidelity last more than a few years? 5%. Was it your plan to divorce me and marry your lover? Well, we'll never know now, right? He's dead. Her face twisted in anger. I deleted all your evidence. You can't control me anymore. Our parents and children don't know who to believe. Was it worth it? She spat. I didn't destroy this marriage. You did, I said calmly. I'm just acknowledging the time of death. Sophia's anger flared. Maybe I wouldn't have slept with someone else if you'd paid more attention to me, she accused. Why should I? You never paid any attention to me, I replied coldly. We sat in silence for a moment before she asked abruptly, Did you eliminate him? I smiled faintly, glancing toward the pin with the hidden camera. It was an accident, I said evenly. She tried to provoke me, her voice rising. How could you do such a thing? Her eyes filled with tears. He was a good guy. I let some anger seep into my voice. Oh, you mean the kind of guy who seduces other people's wives? Sophia broke into tears, but quickly shifted tactics. But you still love me. I know you do, she said. Correction. I loved you, I replied. True love is rare, even in marriage. You had it from me. But what did I get in return? Your desire for a husband, money, and fidelity. You threw away real love for vulgar passion. Millions will desire you for that, but no one will love you the way I did after what you did to your family and me. Sophia's tears streamed down her face, but she quickly composed herself. I need a drink. Anyone else? She said brightly. I'll go to the bar and be back to talk like adults. She got dressed and left. As soon as the door closed, Isabel moved closer. You look delicious, she said with a sly grin. Isabel, now is not the time, I said firmly. Ignoring me, she stood between my legs and leaned in. What Sophia doesn't know won't hurt her, she whispered. I tried to push her away, but Isabel suddenly pulled me onto the bed, screaming, Please stop. The door burst open, and Sophia rushed in with her phone raised, recording. What are you doing to my sister? Isabel cried theatrically. Sophia pushed me back, smiling as she stopped the recording. Now you're in trouble, she said triumphantly. I have a video of you attacking Isabel. They both laughed as I sat in the chair, dejected. Wagging her finger, Sophia sneered. Here's how the divorce will work. No more postnuptial agreement. If you mention it, I'll send you to jail. You get 10%, I get 90%, full custody, and support for life. Don't agree? This video will seal your fate. Fine, I replied, realizing I'd underestimated her. Isabel quickly dressed, and the sisters left the room, laughing. I watched from the window until they were gone. Then I got dressed, retrieved my pin with its hidden camera, and left. The meeting had gone better than I'd expected. The next day, Sophia was served with divorce papers enforcing the post-nuptial agreement. When she threatened me with her recording, I smiled and said, You didn't delete everything. If you try to frame me, I'll be free the next day, and you'll be in jail. Sophia backed down, but we both hired lawyers. The court battle began. I provided transcripts of recordings I'd restored and made it clear to her lawyer that we were still recovering some deleted files. After extensive negotiation, a court date was set to determine whether the post-nuptial agreement was enforceable and if I had sufficient evidence to prove infidelity. Days before the trial, I sent forged letters to Sophia and Isabel, supposedly from the CDC, informing them that her deceased lover had tested positive for AIDS and advising them to abstain from intimacy for 12 months until their results were clear. The timing was perfect. By the trial day, both women were rattled. The judge, however, was unimpressed with either of us. Sophia's lawyer argued that the post-nuptial agreement had been signed under duress and that she had never committed infidelity. Sophia cried convincingly, painting herself as a victim. I countered that the agreement was a fair response to her infidelity, which made her an unfit spouse and parent. The judge asked, "What evidence do you have to prove she committed infidelity?" My lawyer presented voice recordings, video footage, and transcripts. The judge frowned. "Why are you presenting this evidence now?" he asked. "We recovered the recordings through a certified process after Sophia deleted the originals," my lawyer explained. "Data recovery is time-consuming, but we have verified its authenticity." The judge turned to me. "Did Sophia delete these files?" "Yes, Your Honor. We also have a recording of her admitting it," I said. "She thought she'd erased everything, but I saved copies in multiple locations." Sophia's lawyer confirmed, "The transcripts do match the recordings, Your Honor." The judge leaned forward. "Do you challenge the authenticity of these recordings?" he asked Sophia's lawyer, his tone sharp. Sophia's lawyer glanced at her, and she gave a slight shake of her head. "No, Your Honor," he said, conceding. The judge nodded. "This addresses the validity of the agreement and nullifies claims of coercion. However, there's no concrete proof of infidelity after signing the agreement." My lawyer interjected, "Your Honor, here is the transcript of the final video, along with the video itself, demonstrating Sophia's infidelity after the agreement was signed." The judge raised an eyebrow. "Why is this evidence being presented now?" "It was held in police custody as part of an accidental death investigation," my lawyer explained. "We weren't sure it still existed until recently." The judge turned to Sophia's lawyer. "Have you reviewed the video?" "Yes, but we argue it's inadmissible. There's no signed consent, and even if allowed, there's no proof it was recorded after the agreement," Sophia's lawyer responded. My lawyer countered, "My client paid for plane tickets for Sophia, her sister Isabel, and her lover, as well as the hotel room they used for this encounter. The evidence clearly shows it occurred after the agreement." The judge turned to me. "Did you consent to your wife's affair?" "No, Your Honor. I never agreed to or condoned her behavior," I replied. "Then why did you pay for the tickets and hotel?" the judge pressed. "I was trying to end the affair. I asked her lover how much it would take to stay away from my wife. He demanded $2,000, airfare, and a stay at a 5-star hotel. I agreed, hoping this would stop it," I explained. "How do we know this is the right hotel?" the judge asked. I pointed to the video. "In the opening scene, you can see the hotel sign in the background." "And how did you obtain this video?" the judge asked. "I paid for it," I replied. "When I discovered my wife's affair, I asked her lover for evidence to confirm it. He provided visual proof." "For what purpose?" the judge asked. "For the divorce," I said simply. The judge scrutinized me. "Did he know why you wanted this evidence?" "Yes." I explained that it was cheaper and easier to get testimony from him than to hire a private investigator. He even provided a second video for $500. The judge turned to Isabel. "Your Honor," I said, "if there's any doubt about the video's authenticity or date, my wife's sister Isabel is right here and can verify it." The courtroom turned to Isabel. She froze, but the judge redirected his focus to me. "Is this all you got from her lover?" "Yes," I replied, "but he was the source of the majority of the evidence you've seen today. I paid him a total of $3,000. Sophia's face turned red with anger as the realization dawned. Her lover had been recording their encounters to sell them to me for the divorce. For a mere $3,000, Sophia would have paid 10 times that amount to keep the videos hidden. I could see her calculating. She believed this was all I had. If I'd had more, I would have presented it already. Sophia whispered frantically to her lawyer, who requested a break as we neared lunchtime. The judge allowed it. When we returned, Sophia's lawyer claimed they had a video proving I had committed a crime and infidelity, thus invalidating the postnuptial agreement. Sophia and Isabel both offered to testify to its authenticity. Sophia, feigning reluctance, said, "My sister and I didn't want to bring this up, but now I see how manipulative he's been." The video played. The hotel door, Isabel screaming, "Please stop." Sophia bursting in, catching me on top of Isabel. Sophia screamed, "What are you doing to my sister?" Isabel sobbed, "He attacked me." The footage ended abruptly with Sophia claiming she'd uploaded the video to the cloud. The judge turned to me. "What do you say in your defense?" My lawyer has a rebuttal video, I said. Sophia's lawyer objected, but the judge allowed it. The video played. Sophia and Isabel laughing about their setup, discussing stripping to avoid recording devices, and leaving the room together, smug and triumphant. The judge frowned deeply. Isabel tried to slip away, but the bailiff stopped her. Sophia's parents sighed audibly behind her, and some relatives left the courtroom in disgust. Sophia's face fell as the full weight of her loss settled in. The judge ruled in favor of the postnuptial agreement. Then my lawyer revealed a bombshell. Sophia had a secret bank account containing more than our combined assets. She had been funneling extra paychecks and bonuses into it for years, even taking out a second mortgage on our home. The discovery of this account had been a fortunate accident when I installed monitoring software during her affair. While I didn't tell the judge about how I found it, my lawyer presented evidence that Sophia had diverted mortgage payments into her secret account, suggesting she had planned to run. The judge awarded me 100% of the marital assets and required Sophia to pay all attorney's fees and court costs. Due to her greed, she had transferred everything to her secret account, meaning I didn't owe her a cent for the house. Sophia and Isabel were also sentenced to 90 days in jail for perjury. I received full custody of the children, the house, and 2 of our best cars. Sophia was left with 5% of the assets, barely enough to cover her legal fees. She kept her clothes, a modest car, and some jewelry, which I'd already sold after discovering her affair. Sophia now works as a waitress alongside Isabel. My children refuse to forgive her, ashamed to be seen with her. Occasionally, she sends me drunken messages alternating between hatred and desperate pleas for reconciliation. I save them all, just in case. Sophia never truly loved me. She valued what she could take, not what she could give. I keep a restraining order against her and Isabel to ensure they never disrupt our lives again.